then. So what I've got here is a test project with a bunch of tests in it. And I've arranged my tests in a folder structure. So I've got Salesforce sales tests, and within that I've got account tests. Now, in the real world, you'd go and also have opportunity tests and all the other tests you'd want. Within account tests, I've just got 3 very simple test cases, which are going to create, delete, and update accounts. And these are the test definitions. So basically, you define your test cases once, and they actually define what the test is going to actually do when it executes. So now that we've got our tests, what we're wanting to do is execute these tests in a sort of structured way, which is repeatable. And we're going to use test plans to do that. So let's start off by creating ourselves a new test plan. So from the new menu, I'm going to choose new test plan. Give it a name. So I'm going to call this Salesforce Winter 20. But once you get a name, it allows you to choose which features you want to add to your test plan. Now, for phase 1, we support PDF outputs, pie chart outputs, and email notifications. But this list will be expanding quite a bit over the coming releases to include stuff like Slack notifications, Salesforce chatter notifications. It'll have a new reporting section where you can choose to report into Zephyr or TestRail or X-Ray or ALM or even your own custom reporting solution. So that's.
Can I ask you just a side note on that? You mentioned like Slack, etc. Is that going to be pretty much just a webhook entry, or is it going to be a targeted thing? Because maybe the kind of thing where we just include the ability to fire a webhook.
Okay, I don't know at this stage, but
yeah. Let's chat about that, because I got some ideas around that can make that maybe easier.
Sure. Okay, so we've given our test plan a name, we've chosen the features we want, and then we click Finish to create the test plan. And what happens in Provar is you get a plans folder created, and then underneath that you've got the test plan that we just created. Now, looking at the test plan editor, firstly, if you remember those features that I enabled, what you've got is an expandable and collapsible group per feature. So we chose all 3 of them. So we've got 3 of these groups for pie chart, PDF, and email notification. And then for each of those features, you can choose to enable or disable that feature. And what that does is just allows you to disable it without actually removing it from your test plan. And then it's got the configuration settings which are applicable to that feature. So we've got whether you want a legend in your pie chart, so just the labels at the bottom. And lastly, this artifact name, we're going to use that later to be able to include this pie chart when we send an email.
And does that all kind of carry through from that standpoint if, say, it's kicked off via Ant?
Yes, it does. I'll demo the Ant stuff later.
Yeah.
So looking at the PDF options, it's slightly more fancy. So you're basically saying whether you want to enable the PDF output, and then whether you want to have a summary section in your PDF output, and if so, what features you want in there, and whether you actually want the test case details to be added to the bottom of your PDF, and if so, lots of configuration settings for that.
This is effectively the same thing as what our report generation gives you the output of. Yeah, okay.
Correct. And then once again, an artifact name. And then thirdly, we come to the email notification. So let's say that we want to send this email to my home address, as one of course wants to. And then what you can do is customize the email body. And when you're customizing it, you can add all your HTML markups, so you can change the colors and all that sort of stuff. But importantly, you can then go and insert the pie chart and the PDF that we sort of mentioned earlier. So I'm going to tell it to include the pie chart. I'm going to tell it to include the execution report. The other things you can also include are sort of variables. So you can add your successful count if you want to into the email that's sent. So so basically what we're doing is we're configuring the email body, and that's job done. Now, what you can do is add and remove features at any stage. So you can decide, actually, I don't want this pie chart anymore. But once you've removed it, or if you didn't add it originally, you can always change your mind and add it back in. So we're going to add that pie chart feature back in. So that's what this plus menu does. And the X is to sort of remove the ones that you don't want anymore. So the difference between a remove and a disable is that the remove is permanently removing, although you can undo it. And the enable is just temporarily disabling it without losing all your settings. Okay, so now we've got our sort of empty test plan. So now what we want to do is configure this test plan to run our tests for us. So what I'm going to do is drag a folder of tests. So I'm going to take the whole Salesforce sales folder and drag and drop it into my test plan. And what it does is it creates the same folder structure under your test plan. It just created a copy of them, although it's not quite a copy. I'll go into that later. But basically what it's done is just almost done a copy and paste for you. So let's take a look at, let me just save all of this and then close. So let's take a look at what a folder looks like underneath the test plan. So this is what we call a plan folder. And what you can do at the plan folder level is tell it which test environment and web browser you want to run all its children under. So basically what we're going to do here is that say that we want to run all these tests under Chrome, for argument's sake. So what I'm going to do, just to make it so that I remember, is just rename this folder to put Chrome on the end of it. Those are the basic things, and those are the same things that you see in the Provar toolbar at the top right.
The only thing that's not included there is test cycle, but that's mainly because this is effectively replacing that piece of it. Is that correct in that kind of assessment of that?
Correct, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So basically what we've said now is that we want to run all our tests under Chrome. Now what we can then do is drag the folder in again a second time. And this time we're going to tell it that we want to run all these tests under Firefox. So I'm going to rename that to Firefox. And I'm going to go into that folder and tell it, Firefox, that one, and tell it that I now want to run all these tests under Firefox. So basically what we've done is, what we've achieved is actually running the same test case more than once. First time under Chrome, the second time under Firefox. And yes, you can then go and run this plan folder, or even the test plan. Let's actually do that. So we say run tests. Try and get a bit bigger. These tests are run very quickly because they're not actually doing anything. But you can see that it's basically executed each of the test cases under the different browser as specified. So just to fill in one detail that I promised I'd go back to is what exactly is a test instance. So I'm just going to open up this first test instance in the editor. And basically what a test instance is basically telling you which test case to run. So it's not actually a copy of the test case. All it's telling you is what the test case name is, and then the configuration that you want to run it under. Now, if you take a look at the web browser at the moment, it's got a setting of inherit. So basically what that's saying is, actually, instead of looking in the test instance for the web browser to use, actually look in the parent folders until you find a web browser. So what's going to happen is, it's first going to look in account tests. Now, account test has also got inherit specified. So because it can't find it there, it'll then go and take a look in the parent folder again, which is Salesforce Sales Chrome in this instance. And there it does actually have the web browser specified, and that's the web browser it's going to use, Chrome in this instance. So basically what we've got over here is the ability to actually just set the default values at the folder level, and then all the children will use those values unless you explicitly tell it differently. So what you could do is, for instance, tell it that you want to run just this particular test against, let's say, Safari. And then the result will be that when we run this, it'll create a count against Safari. And then the remaining tests will inherit the Chrome setting from the enclosing plan folder.